For a long time, I hesitated to talk about disability on my platform. My reluctance didn't come from a place of shame. I simply didn't know how to share that specific reality without letting it consume the entire narrative, reducing a complex life to a single defining trait. Then I sat down to write a book called The Balance Between Wings. This became my debut self-published novel, released under the pen name Guinevere Atlas. It's a gentle story, softer than the dark, gothic heartbeat at my upcon work, before Gloria Regali, but they share the exact same core. They both explore hope, liberation, and the deeply human need to forge a found family, when the world at large doesn't quite know where to put us. When asked why I write, part of the answer is simply a love for storytelling. But the deeper truth is that I spent years scanning the pages of fantasy books, desperately looking for myself. I wanted to read about a black girl, a disabled girl, someone who embraced magic without it mooring the harsh realities of her own body. Most importantly, I wanted to see someone who could be loved exactly as she was, without needing to be cured or changed first. I would find scattered fragments of this person in fiction, but rarely the complete picture. Eventually, I just grew tired of waiting. I picked up a pen, not with the grand goal of becoming an author, but because I needed a safe place to put my hope. Creating the specific story that you lacked in your youth turns out to be an incredibly potent act of self-healing. This longing birthed the world of Avalon. It's an isolated city set on Catalina Island that entirely changes its character once the summer tourists leave and the seasonal rites begin. For Lyra, the protagonist, taking the ferry to the island is a literal crossing between worlds. It brings her straight into a claustrophobic environment of impossible standards. She arrives encased in a restrictive uniform where the wool itches and the lace pinches, a physical reminder that, in this society, elegance is supposedly earned through suffering. And then there is Kaliel. He is a companion who doesn't try to offer empty platitudes or fix her circumstances. Instead, he simply holds the silence for her during her most vulnerable moments. Lyra's struggle to balance her imperfect wings in front of judgmental elders directly mirrors the real-world exhaustion of navigating an ableist society, a world obsessed with progress and potential, while asking marginalized people to constantly shrink themselves to fit in. Inside the Right Hall, the pressure reaches its peak. Hundreds of changelings gather, terrified, as elders demand they perform graceful flights, labeling those who fall as broken. For years, Lyra believed this endurance was a sacred duty. But she finally realizes that pushing through the pain isn't leading to acceptance. It's actively making her smaller. She walks away from the bar. She rejects the ritual entirely, realizing that she doesn't owe them her body, and she certainly doesn't need to be whole to be worthy of their song. This tension reflects my own creative identity. I naturally gravitate toward writing from the liminal spaces between shadow and light. Through my pen name, I focus on crafting atmospheric, character-driven fantasies that intentionally center disability and neurodivergence. In a world that constantly demands rigorous endurance, simply surviving is a sacred act, and choosing tenderness over resilience becomes the ultimate form of rebellion. When I finished the manuscript, I looked at the pages and realized this story had a wider purpose. Someone else out there is waiting for a book that quietly whispers, "You belong here," and that belonging is absolute. It doesn't require you to be perfect, and it doesn't demand that you have your life completely figured out. It answers a powerful question. What if the very first book you put out into the world was exactly the one your younger self had been desperately waiting to read? I wrote it to be a soft place to rest. It is meant for readers who absorb stories deeply, experiencing the narrative with their entire nervous system. It stands as a sanctuary for disabled and neurodivergent readers who are so frequently pushed to the margins of traditional fantasy tropes. If you feel drawn to Lyra's journey, you can find The Balance Between Wings wherever books are sold, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through independent bookstores via Draft to Digital. And if you find yourself wanting more of this universe, my upcoming project, Before Gloria Regali, Letters and Lamentations, will continue exploring these exact themes. My ultimate goal as an author is to keep building these atmospheric worlds where sensitive souls can uncover their own quiet strength. Fiction cannot magically fix the systemic hurdles we face in the real world, but a good book can firmly remind us that we aren't carrying that heavy burden by ourselves. When we write our truths, storytelling transforms from a solitary pursuit into communal healing, bridging the painful gap between isolation and the family we finally choose.